Et donc, je crains
My
que
fear is that if Donald Trump does secure a ceasefire, it will be on terms set by Vladimir Putin.
et ensuite le cessez-le-feu soit sur la position que Vladimir Poutine recherche.
What is your assessment of the state of the peace process in Ukraine?
Vladimir Poutine va, pendant les jours qui vont venir, pousser autant qu'il est possible.
Vladimir Putin will, in the coming days, push his offensive in Ukraine as much as possible and chase the Ukrainians who are in Kursk. He wants to enter the negotiating phase with Donald Trump in a position of military and political strength. My fear is that if Donald Trump does secure a ceasefire, it will be on terms set by Vladimir Putin.
Et donc, je crains que ce que va obtenir Donald Trump, s'il obtient la trêve et ensuite le cessez-le-feu, soit sur la position que Vladimir Poutine recherche.
Are you favorable to the idea, perhaps without an American security guarantee, of Great Britain and France putting troops on the ground to assure the peace of Ukraine after a settlement?
Nous n'en sommes pas là puisque pour l'instant il n'y a ni trêve ni cessez-le-feu. Et pas d'avantage.
We're not there yet, because there is no ceasefire and no peace deal. If there was to be a peace agreement, it would be necessary for the Europeans to be part of it, to justify a security guarantee for Ukraine, which Putin refuses. But if we could establish this security guarantee, I am in favor of the European forces doing most of the work. It would be preferable for the Americans to be there and not simply to protect US nationals exploring or exploiting minerals in Ukraine. The long-standing agreement, especially with the Biden administration, is that if there were to be a security guarantee, that it could be both American and European, and even include countries that are not in the European continent and not in the Western Bloc.
L'exploitation des minerais sur le territoire ukrainien. Ce qui avait été longtemps convenu, notamment avec l'administration de Biden, c'est que s'il devait y avoir un accord de paix, il y ait une garantie de sécurité qui puisse être à la fois américaine et européenne, voire même inclure des pays qui ne sont pas du continent européen et pas dans le bloc occidental.
But could we have faith in Putin?
Non, il faut savoir que Poutine ne comprend que les
No,
rapports de
we must know that Putin only understands power and only backs down when he is forced to do so. That is why Donald Trump's major mistake was to tell the whole world, and Putin, that Zelensky didn't hold any cards.
que Zelensky n'avait pas les cartes en main.
France has always had reservations about the government of the United States. What's your assessment of the Trump administration? Is it a reliable ally of Europe?
Non, je crois que les États-Unis ont longtemps été un allié et l'ont prouvé en venant deux fois sauver.
No, I think the United States has long been an ally and proved it twice by participating in the liberation of the European continent. We formed an alliance with the United States within NATO. We, Americans and French, led a number of operations together. But today, the Trump administration, without leaving the Atlantic Alliance and without considering itself an adversary of the European continent, is doing nothing to reassure us either for the security of our continent or on economic and commercial issues. On the contrary, by imposing tariffs, there will be an impact on the growth of our two continents and inflation will increase. We don't expect an ally to make our lives more difficult.
En imposant des droits de douane, il va y avoir finalement un impact et sur la croissance dans nos deux continents et il va y avoir une inflation supplémentaire. D'un allié, on n'attend pas qu'il rende la vie plus difficile à nos ressortissants.
To what extent are you worried about the imposition of tariffs, and how do you think the European Union and France should respond?
La France et l'Europe doivent répondre à la hauteur de l'attaque qui nous est faite. C'est-à-dire que si
France and Europe must respond at the same level as the attack leveled against us. If the Trump administration imposes tariffs on products that are essential elements of our foreign trade, we will also have to impose reciprocal tariffs on essential products from the United States, which are imported to the European continent. I think the best way to get Donald Trump to step back is to inflict as many negative consequences as possible on his economy so that Wall Street collapses, so that inflation grows in the United States, so that businesses start to worry, and so that Trump's promise to make Americans richer becomes untenable.
Wall Street décroche, pour que l'inflation progresse aux États-Unis, pour que les milieux d'affaires commencent à s'inquiéter et pour que la promesse de Trump, qui était de rendre plus riches les Américains, se trouve contrariée.
In practice, do you think that the United Kingdom can choose to be some kind of bridge between Europe and the United States?
Oui, si le Royaume-Uni peut utiliser les liens historiques qui existent et puis les liens de confiance entre l'Amérique
Yes, if the United Kingdom can use the historical links that exist and the links of trust between the United States and the UK, I would welcome that. But we must understand that the United Kingdom will be as affected as the EU by the protectionist measures of Donald Trump. On the other hand, I have confidence in the British government to participate at the highest level in the defence of Europe, thanks to a cooperation that we already engaged with the United Kingdom for years, but which will be strengthened again in the near future.
Engagé avec le Royaume-Uni depuis des années, mais qui va se renforcer encore ces prochains jours.
What do you think of Keir Starmer? He's a fellow socialist.
Oui, c'est vrai. Oui, oui, je pense que il est conscient que le Royaume-Uni.
Yes, I think he is aware that the United Kingdom, while not being a member of the EU, is a European country, and that the UK, being in NATO, has obligations that he is ready to fulfill, and that finally, the United Kingdom, like France, has a nuclear deterrence force, and that makes us responsible for the security of our continent.
Dispose comme la France d'une force de dissuasion nucléaire et que ça nous rend responsables de la sécurité de notre continent.
Would France be prepared to extend its nuclear umbrella to the rest of Europe?
C'est la première fois que l'Allemagne, de manière aussi claire et explicite,
It's the first time that Germany, in such a clear and explicit way, has asked to be protected by the deterrence forces, be it French or from the UK. Until now, Germany did not need to ask since it was certain of American protection. So the new fact is that the uncertainty that Donald Trump shows on his solidarity with the European continent and on the use of Article 5 of NATO if there was an attack on a member country, which might not be automatic for Donald Trump, leads countries, not just Germany, to look for an understanding of what the vital interests of France or the United Kingdom might be, and that our interests do not stop at our physical borders.
Pour Donald Trump, conduit les pays, pas simplement l'Allemagne, à souhaiter qu'il y ait une compréhension de ce qu'est l'intérêt vital de la France ou l'intérêt vital du Royaume-Uni et qui ne s'arrête pas à nos frontières physiques.
Mais jusqu'ici. But until now, France has always kept its nuclear deterrent independent for itself.
Oui, et ça restera d'ailleurs.
Yes, and it will remain France's position whatever happens. That is to say that we have a deterrence force, that we built it step by step, and its use depends only on the President of the Republic, according to what he considers to be the vital interests of France. That decision is not shared.
En fonction de ce qu'il estime être les intérêts vitaux de la France. Et cette décision ne se partage pas.
La vision à la long terme. President Macron's vision of a European security allowance seems to be increasingly realized, and he's long considered a distinct European security identity separate from NATO. In your opinion, how will it happen? À votre avis, est-ce que ça va passer?
Je ne sais pas ce que deviendra l'Alliance Atlantique, ou plus exactement.
I don't know what NATO will become, or more precisely, I don't know what Donald Trump's attitude will be towards NATO. But what I know is that this Atlantic alliance will remain, and that NATO will remain the organization in which a European pillar for defense can be built and raised. Even if we in France are very attached to strategic autonomy, imagining a European defense outside of the field of the Atlantic alliance is out of the question, because no European country wants to leave NATO.
D'imaginer une Europe de la défense hors du champ de l'Alliance Atlantique. Parce qu'aucun pays européen ne souhaite sortir de l'Alliance Atlantique.
Mais peut-être But maybe General de Gaulle was right. The world will become more independent, more Gaullist the countries, les pays.
Oui, oui, mais indépendant ne veut pas dire être sans alliés. Le général de Gaulle, il voulait
Yes,
que
but
la France
independent does not mean without allies. General de Gaulle wanted France to have, through the power of deterrence and through foreign policy, a capacity for independence and an influence that could be different from that of the United States and certainly of the Soviet Union at the time. But he always considered that he was a member of the alliance. Even if he had taken France out of the military organization and its military command, France was a member of the Atlantic Alliance. That is still true today. France wants to be autonomous, wants a European pillar to be built, but in the Atlantic Alliance. We have allies and we intend to respect them.
autonome, veut qu'il y ait un pilier européen qui puisse être constitué, mais dans l'Alliance Atlantique. Nous avons des alliés et nous entendons les respecter.
Away from the immediate international situation, I just want to ask you a few questions about what's going on in France. Everyone was dramatically struck by the affair of Gisèle Pelicot. What impact do you think that's had? Has it changed the attitudes of the relationship between men and women forever in France?
Ce procès a été révélateur de ce qu'était l'oppression de femmes par des hommes sans...
That trial revealed what the oppression of women by unscrupulous men looks like, including their husbands, in the case of Gisèle Pelicot. Gisèle Pelicot's courage was to ask for the trial not to take place behind doors, for it to be public, so that everyone knows what a woman can suffer through chemical submission, and that it serves as a lesson for men who would like to use it, and for women to protect themselves. This courage allows many women to speak out today.
Et ce courage-là, il permet à beaucoup de femmes de prendre la parole aujourd'hui.
Et finalement, votre avenir politique?
Bah, mon avenir politique,
Well, my political future is limited in time since I've already been president. I had important responsibilities for the Socialist Party in the past. I am an MP again, but I consider that my role, my task, is to ensure that in 2027, for the presidential election in France, the Socialist Party, the credible left, can mobilize enough voters to be in the second round and beat the far right.
présidentielle en France, le Parti socialiste, la gauche crédible, puisse être capable de mobiliser suffisamment d'électeurs pour être au second tour et battre l'extrême droite.
Ah bon, merci.
Merci.
Dommage. Merci beaucoup.
Merci.